Good evening, all. We have gathered for yet another interesting Ecotech talk of Exneco today. The topic for the day is driving long-term growth, promoting ESG, and the strategic impact of sustainable investments. Today, we have with us Mr. Jubin Mishra, who is board advisor, strategy consultant, ESG evangelist, as well as co-founder and partner of BlueHelion. Mr. Mishra has a rich corporate experience wherein he held the position of Vice President Essensure and Senior Vice President HSBC. He has also been associated with LG and Sony. He is also a strategy consultant of investment banking firm and recognizes the impact of sustainable investments well. We at Exneco are proud to have him on our EcoTech Talk. Exneco stands for exploration, networking, and collaboration, and we try to build a platform for sustainable enterprises for the common good. Myself, Shrestha, and I'm the host for the day. Welcome, Mr. Mishra, for today's EcoTech Talk. My first question to you is, what was the inspiration behind the starting of the company BlueHelion? What are the objectives of the company? Did you have any specific agenda around ESG when establishing this company?
Thank you, Shrestha, and for welcoming me onto your panel discussion as well as your podcast series. And just to start with a little bit of a history and a context. So, Blue Alien was started by me and my co-founder Anish in Gupta about 4 years back. Both of us are senior corporate professionals. We spend years in the corporate world, and we come from the background of premier B schools in India. And personally, during my journey of the last 20, 25 years of working, I was involved with the ESG agenda in my erstwhile form and the CSR as well as corporate sustainability agenda from some time in 2014. So I had a long exposure to the ESG principles. In fact, when the UN Charter on Sustainable Development Goals were getting formed for the 2030 UN agenda, I was actively involved in trying to build a thesis around the same for my company, also for my clients that I was working with in my corporate world at that point of time. So last 10 years, I have had a ringside view of ESG and of sustainability and sustainable investment and impact investment. So when we decided to sign up and start a firm in 2020, the inspiration was to actually create a platform that not only drives commercial success, but also promotes responsible and sustainable business practice. We are a firm very, very strongly focused in the middle of the market. And our thesis is that the value the country is going to see from the mid-market and emerging growth stories will happen from mid-market. And even the country and the prime minister and the leadership, they have a huge expectation from the SMB and SME as they try and become a $1 trillion economy. And as India becomes $1 trillion economy, the ESG and sustainability will become forefront and center of this resurgence, largely because a lot of the growth will come from exports. Largely, a lot of the growth will come from growing global, though there is a large market inside India itself. And global markets would demand that we are aligning with the principles of sustainability and becoming responsible corporates, and which would mean adoption of ESG. So that's where the genesis of this firm was. We said we would work and instill this into the promoter set, and we will support the ESG agenda in the MSME and SMB world. That's where we started the journey. Our primary objective was to provide growth consulting and investment banking to mid-market companies in India, particularly in sectors as manufacturing, consumer, healthcare, health tech, technology, and also social venture, social impact enterprises. So from outset, we had a clear agenda around ESG principles, sustainability principle. We knew the demand for the same would increase, and the boardroom discussions would increasingly move towards these agenda. And therefore, not only the mainline corporates, bottom of the pyramid corporates, MSME, SMEs would be expected to align. And we believe that integrating ESG into a service not only enhances the long-term value of our clients, but also helps us contribute to broader, the goals of the country, the societal and environmental well-being of people. So focus on sustainability is a core part of our mission, and we actively enable ESG adoption in MSME and SMBs. We are also investment bankers, so we facilitate fund infusion into companies which are focused on sustainability agendas, startups which are working in the ESG and sustainability space, in circular economy space. So our thesis and our offerings are 360-degree in the space of ESG and sustainability. And more importantly, today we are very, very strongly propagating ESG right from not just from the boardroom, but from the anvils of the universities. A lot of the universities where I'm associated as visiting faculty, I'm trying to curate courses on ESG and build a ESG ready workforce. So in our own modest effort, we're trying to build ecosystem, and that involves partnering with companies, extensive networking with other people in the ESG value chain who can bring this agenda to mainstream from an MSME SME perspective in India. So that's how we started. That's where we have currently focused on.
That's really wonderful, sir. Sir, then how does BlueHelion expedite unique growth concepts that lead to commercial success?
So we are a, a full life cycle growth life cycle advisory. So we work with promoters in two areas. So one, for mature growth companies, we are largely working on matured enterprises, or matured MSME SME businesses or steady businesses. We are largely looking at diversification strategy. We are seeing where is an opportunity for growth, how can we unlock potential for the firm by getting into new areas, which means offering development, creating new products, new solutions, new services for the market is a key part of that growth. And once we do that, we monetize it, we create a revenue plan around it. We also see how we can take them global. So when we're trying to do offering development for MSME or SMB businesses across sectors, our key focus is while doing so, we also build the future focus. We also try and bring elements of governance, elements of sustainability, recyclability from a circular economy standpoint. We're also looking at how do we embed ESG principles in not only the boardroom discussion from a governance perspective, but how does everything that we bring from an offering strategy and a go-to-market strategy is also embedded in the ESG and the sustainability agenda. So that's one part of our focus. The second part of our focus is obviously working with startups who are trying to drive the sustainability agenda with their offerings. So we help them sharpen their product proposition, their go-to-market. We help them getting funded. We take them to investors. We try and create opportunity for them. We create market linkage for them. So these are largely two areas that we work on. So in short, we expedite the unique growth concepts by leveraging our deep expertise and a very, very strong networks of partners across the globe. Today, we have partnership across the ESG value chain, and we are able to tap into them as we take our offerings to the client, and then we are able to create value for the client. We focus on identifying and nurturing innovative ideas that align with the market needs and have the potential for scalability. Scalability and growth is critical from a offering standpoint from our perspective, because we want businesses to be scale ready, growth ready, the business model being viable and feasible, and there should be some economic returns and there should be some economic value from the pursuits of the clients. So our approach, which includes strategic advisory, access to capital, operational support, ensure that these concepts are not only commercially viable but also sustainable. For instance, we emphasize on the importance of circular economy model and resource efficiency. And this is something we very, very strongly advocate and push in our strategic consulting role. We try and help companies identify where there is a reusability, how they can cut down emissions, how they can improve energy uses, how they can improve their supply chain. So a lot of the work is going in terms of also around the circularity principles. So we do a lot of work, and small companies are typically not aware of this, so they benefit from our experience. So by integrating ESG consideration into a growth strategy, we are helping clients differentiate themselves in the market and achieve a sustainable commercial success.
That's really wonderful, sir. In fact, now coming to our third question, it is, can you throw light on why one should invest in sustainable companies?
So a good question. I think investing in sustainable companies and companies who are driving the sustainability agenda is just no longer a feel-good factor. It is not a moral imperative, but that is a sound financial strategy. These are the companies that are going to set the norms as we go forward. Sustainability is an agenda that one cannot escape. Few years back, we had the concept of getting digital. So every business became a digital business, and we started saying you cannot escape the realms of being in a digital world. You cannot escape being a digital business. You have to adopt digital for sustained growth, for value, for greater customer attraction, greater revenue growth. And the same applies to sustainability. Every business has to be a sustainable business because the world is at a pressure. We are seeing the impact of years of abuse of our environmental resource, unchecked growth. A lot of the things should have been done maybe 50 years back, but unfortunately, the world realized very late that we need to adopt the principles of good governance, the principles of sustainability. So that is why this is no longer a moral imperative. It's no longer a political need. It's no longer a compliance need. It is a front and center of businesses being relevant in the years to come. So they will have to become sustainable. Sustainable companies per se tend to have a better risk management practices. They have a lower operational costs. They have more engaged workforce. They have a more engaged stakeholder system. Their return on investments are fairly high. The market also rewards them if they're a publicly listed company. The consumer confidence in them is very high. So they benefit in a lot many ways than we can imagine today. So they're also more resilient to market shocks and regulatory changes. And one has to realize that the consumer awareness is at all-time high. The consumers are seeing the impact of climate change. They're seeing the impact of environmental degradation. So the growing consumer and investor demand for ethical and sustainable products and services is only growing. And this will help enhance brand loyalty and market share for companies which are practicing these. So there is a top-down pressure, there's a bottoms-up pressure. The market are dictating what the company should do. And therefore, this becomes a very, very key area to focus on. In the long term, sustainable companies, as we all know, are likely to outperform their peers as they are better positioned to adapt evolving environmental and societal landscape. And investing in such company will align financial returns with positive environmental and social impact. So it's a win-win scenario for the investors and the society, for the business owners and the promoters. So a lot of the things which has gone wrong, we cannot change, but we can slow down the pace of the negative impact. We can try and make world a better place. So a lot that is happening in the world across, protecting the environment, trying to preserve your climate for a longer term, trying to make businesses a little more environmental conscious. All these are going to make a strong impact on how businesses are going to become tomorrow. So
Very
that's
true.
why I believe that it is important that people invest in sustainability agenda.
Very true, sir. So now, this also brings me to my next question: how ESG criteria helps to better assess the sustainability in the world of investments, and what is the trend in India as well as abroad when it comes to sustainability initiatives?
So ESG criteria provide a comprehensive framework for assessing sustainability and the ethical impact of an investment. Let's understand from that point. So when an investment is happening, what does it create in terms of a return for the investor, for the company, but from what is the impact it is generating for the society? That's a very, very important angle to consider in today's world. So they essentially cover a range of factors from environmental stewardship to social responsibility to corporate governance. And these criteria help investors identify companies that are proactive in managing risk and opportunity related to sustainability. These helps investors identify companies that are going to work with sustainability as a theme, sustainability as an agenda. These are the companies that investor will find of value when they see that these companies are going to further the ESG adoption in the boardroom. It could be a company which maybe offers ESG reporting solution and a SaaS platform, for example. So anything to do on the sustainability and ESG agenda, circular economy agenda, anything to do on an area of managing climate change, managing an adverse effect of environment, improving the quality of life of human beings, they're all going to garner investor interest, and that's a fact. And that's a fact we cannot ignore any longer. And in India also, we are seeing an increasing trend toward ESG integrated and largely driven by regulatory requirement and investor demands. In fact, our the regulatory agencies like SEBI and your RBI, your the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, they are also trying becoming strict. They are also enforcing reporting norms, disclosure norms, and therefore ESG is becoming very, very critical even in the boardrooms. And from a governance standpoint, as well as a control standpoint, as well as a shareholder value standpoint, this is becoming very important that one cannot ignore.
Right.
Globally, there is a growing recognition that sustainable investment can lead to superior long-term returns, and we're already seeing that. We're seeing that, and classic example is Tesla, for example. Tesla, we see is directly a thesis around sustainability because this is what it started the entire EV run, and we see EVs big in India today. So this trend is reflected in rising number of ESG-focused fund and the integration of ESG factor into mainstream investment process. So a lot of companies are going ESG first, sustainability first. There are investors with ESG and sustainability thesis. There are investors which believe that they can get better values from the investment if they invest in these businesses. So the trend is there for everybody to see, and we'll see a lot of action in the days to come.
Very true, sir. So now, my next question to you is, what is your take on social sustainability, and how can investors engage and influence key stakeholders in company for sustainable initiatives?
So, very relevant question, and as I said, in the ESGS stands for the sustainability, and so for the social impact investment and social impact ventures have been there for some time, but they have, they were perhaps not gaining that traction that we ought to have seen, but that is changing because as I see in the last 5-6 years, social sustainability has become very crucial aspect of ESG because it focuses on the well-being of employees, community, and society at large, largely to it covers every human interaction in the economic value chain. It talks about what is the impact of business on human beings, how fair are we to our employees, vendor, community, and society at large, what is the downstream impact of what we produce as business and how we conduct our business. So sustainability is important. Social sustainability directly has a bearing on people. So it has become far more important in the scheme of things. You see government regulations around it. You see corporate governance policies around it. You see this entire your CSR strategy, for example, is an aspect of social sustainability.
Yes.
So in short, you see it includes fair labor practices, diversity and inclusion, community engagement, and investors have a big role to play in promoting social sustainability by engaging with company leadership on these issues. And they are making this investors, whether they're VCs, PEs, people who are participating in larger investment rounds, and are looking at how important is social sustainability for the company that they're investing in. So they are involved in advocating for better labor condition, equitable pay, community development initiative. They are calling for scrutiny of your annual reports. They are calling for scrutiny of companies' practices. They are saying, are the companies walking the talk? Are they doing enough? Are they going to sustain this momentum of their internal investment on these priorities? And investors are taking a very, very hard-nosed approach in terms of evaluating businesses, prospects, and potential from this filter. And as we go forward, I believe that investor will also use their voting power to support resolutions related to social issues at shareholder meeting. They will have a voice. Voice of the capital has always been very important in the growth of modern economy, and voice of capital will dictate the pace of change that we all want to see or we aspire to see. And a lot of the things which is happening today from sustainable enterprise perspective, for a sustainability agenda perspective, where there are a lot of startups coming in sustainability space. That is largely, I think, the investors deserve a credit because they are one which are putting the money behind the right agenda. And therefore, we see so much of interest. They are the ones which have made a huge dent into the current thinking and have led the world to believe that why this investment needs to go into better purpose and why we need to have a balanced approach to investing in any company. And at BlueHelion, we encourage our portfolio companies to adopt best practices in social sustainability, as we believe it leads to a more motivated and productive workforce and builds a stronger community relationship.
Very true, sir. My next question to you is how a norms-based approach like UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development or OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises or specific environment and social criteria impacts sustainable investment in India? And what are the opportunities and challenges associated with sustainability investments in tech industry?
So again, a very pertinent question. I think a lot of the changes which has happened is directly the result of the UN 2030 agenda. In fact, the SDGs, the 17 SDGs that we identified, set the tone for governments and the companies to move towards sustainability as a main theme. And in parallel, a lot of other movements has happened. We have your Rio conferences, we have our entire uh, the Paris Climate Accord. There's a whole lot of things happening which are driven by large world countries. It's driven by economic networks in the world, the governmental networks. So OECD, UN, they have been at the forefront of making the world realize that we have to move towards the norms of sustainability. And I think that is reflecting now in how investors look at business, how government looks at business, how businesses are themselves looking at their own future. So, in short, if you look at these norms, they have provided a guideline, but this norm-based approach provides a set of guidelines and standards that company can follow to ensure that their operations are ethical and sustainable, right? And their business is essentially something which is going to have lesser adverse impact on environment, lesser adverse impact on people, adverse impact on climate. So everything that you do today, you are accountable for that. So, and if you do any wrong or if you do anything, there are punitive measures also. So in India, this approach is gaining traction, particularly among multinational enterprises and large Indian corporates. I see Indian corporates, Indian banks, Indian IT services companies have been at forefront of this um, and adopting this principle because they're largely interacting with the global counterparts. They are largely into export focus. So this is becoming a part and parcel of their main strategy. And it also helps them identify opportunity to grow and opportunity to leverage their offering and build something powerful as a proposition. From an investor standpoint, it also helps them identify companies that align with international standards, are committed to sustainable practice. And specifically, since you asked about the tech industry, there are significant opportunities I see in the area of clean technology, energy efficiency, sustainable data centers. But there's a lot of focus around people practice around from a the social accountability perspective or a social governance perspective or a social sustainability perspective. So there's a lot that tech industry is already doing. There are significant opportunities and room for improvement. But the challenges include is the high upfront cost of implementing sustainable methodologies and the need for ongoing innovation to stay ahead of regulatory and market trends. There are cost compulsions, there are profit compulsions, there are compulsion whether we invest in short term and long terms, and these decisions are not easy to make because business are generating funds which are needed for multiple things, and sustainability agenda is largely funded from your internal accruals. So there's always a trade-off and a choice to be made. And so sometimes it can get tricky and difficult, but then people are seeing the benefit of investing in it in long term, and the traction would continue in a positive direction. And personally, I believe that despite these challenges, the tech industry is well positioned to lead in sustainability due to its capacity for innovation and scalability. And moreover, I think tech industry has been most resilient among all other industry. Their adoption of adopters of change, their adopter of anything new. So they will lead the sustainability agenda in the days to come, and I have no doubts about that. They will be one of the key industries to drive this change.
That was really very informative, sir. Now, this brings me to my next question. Is thematic approach to investment the next trend in investments in India? And how can companies balance short-term cost with long-term benefits when investing in sustainable way of doing business?
So yes, thematic investment has always been almost the practice we have always. So if you look at the different phases of at least let's say the venture capital investment, so they've aligned to a theme, a growth theme, and then there is a thesis built around it, and they and they go ahead and invest in that. So, if consumer was a thesis, so is today green is a thesis, environmental friendly is a thesis, sustainability is a thesis. So yes, thematic investments are very, very important from the way investment happens in the market. A thematic approach to investment will essentially focus on specific themes, as we're aware of, like sustainability, renewable energy, healthcare, and all these are gaining popularity and traction in India. And I see, for example, renewable energy is a huge area, and we see EV is a huge area, and they are all reflection of a theme-based investment. If you look at today, the mushrooming of EV startups, because the investor has an appetite, the market is willing to take new ideas, new models, newer offerings. So even if we think the market is getting crowded for the size that it has currently, the investment bets still continue. And this is where the theme-based investment actually comes to it comes to light, and you see that this is following a particular trend. Now, the theme-based approach allows investors to align a portfolio with the long-term mega trends and societal needs, because investor will always have a thesis. You should understand that. Investors do a lot of research. They align, they read the market ahead of the market being actually ready, and then they direct the money to generate returns aligned with those trends, those market needs. So their ability to crystal gauge is what would drive these trends even in the future. So while investing in sustainable business practices may involve higher upfront cost, the long-term benefits often outweigh these initial expenses. So, that will be one critical consideration. Second, the gestation period for sustainable enterprises or startups working in sustainability area, they may take longer term in terms of getting a market traction, or in terms of getting a profitability out of the business. But if they're able to manage with the help from VCs and the industry ecosystem, they would do well in the long run, and that is a known, because the demand for this is only going to improve. So companies will have to look at a short-term view to long-term view. There will be a certain return expectation which has to be calibrated. Certain business realities have to be taken into factor, that the market consumption of sustainable products will work at a certain pace. Businesses and investors have to be prepared for that. There are going to be risks. Risks are going to be adoption risks. There are going to be regulatory risks. There are going to be trends which are going to change. There could be sudden change in the way the whole sustainability agenda is playing out, and it may play out very different in the future. There are a lot of risks which are known and unknown. They have to be mitigated and balanced. Investors are best placed to steer the agenda on this, and with their support, they can steer the companies where they're investing, and overall the large ecosystem behind them will be able to rally and create win-win propositions. So I believe theme-based investments are going to be there. There will be risk, there will be short-term challenges, but over a period of time, this will all even out, and we will be poised to become far more responsible in terms of how we invest, how the companies per se become sustainable and drive the sustainability agenda. At BlueHelion, we advise our clients to adopt a phased approach, and we generally tell them start with low cost, high impact initiative, gradually invest in more sustainable projects. And these are the companies which I said are growth companies, are companies which are mid-market companies. For years, they have been into manufacturing process or a consumer business, and we tell them how they can introduce sustainability. And this strategy helps them manage cost while building a strong foundation for long-term sustainability. And for the companies which are coming into the startup realms and trying to create sustainable products or services or offerings designed around ESG and sustainability or climate, or food security or anything to that matter, we are working with them to create a model which is more sustainable, which is flexible, agile, nimble, is responsive to market need, and can navigate in the VUCA world. So we spend a lot of time in designing of efforts around that, so that the business model reflects resilience, and then they can absorb any shock, and they can stay afloat for a longer time with or without funding. So that's been our approach to how we help balance it out, balance the risk, and how we take the thematic investment to the next level from actually operationalizing it for the startup ecosystem in India.
So that was great input regarding the thematic approach and thematic investments. So, sir, my next question to you is, what is the present scenario of investment in sustainable startups, and how great is the risk factor involved?
So the investment landscape for sustainable startups in India is becoming increasingly vibrant, and I got personally involved in the impact investment way back in 2017, and almost 8 years down the line, I see the The scenario has changed. A lot of ESG focused investment are happening. A lot of sustainability focused investment is happening. A lot of interest in EV and energy, as I mentioned in the previous questions. So net, I'm seeing that from a startup perspective, there is a great demand for solutions and products and offering which lends itself to the sustainability agenda, and there will be increased investor appetite for them. So there's a growing interest from investors in companies that offer innovative solution to all environmental and social challenges that the world is facing today. Anything that offers solutions which are scalable, sustainable, replicable, can be income generating for the companies and have a market for it is likely to find an investor interest. But investing in sustainable startup does come with risks such as market acceptance, regulatory hurdle, technological feasibility. There's scalability challenge also. There are supply chain challenges also. There are also, most importantly, challenges in terms of currently the market for sustainability is still small from a talent pools perspective. There is a great demand for talent, which is not readily available. That also has a bearing on the growth plans of sustainable startups.
Yes.
And while the investor is interested, the market is in the stage where it is pre-maturity. The market will get much mature, and the proportion of investment that you would see, if there is, for example, $100 available for investment, maybe only 10% of it gets into sustainability and ESG, and maybe everything else into different other sectors. Maybe 20 to 30% in the next 2 to 3 years from an investable basket would get into these enterprises, and then it will only multiply as we go forward. So yes, there are risks. The risks are known risks. The risks will get addressed as business models mature, entrepreneurs mature, as they get a better sense of what the world requires. How are we going to build feasible solutions? How are we going to build solutions for scale? And to mitigate this risk, it is essential for investors to also conduct thorough due diligence, which they do, including assessing a startup's business model, management team, scalability potential. So investment proposition in itself is not enough. They have to demonstrate scale, they have to demonstrate feasibility, they have to demonstrate their ability to stay in the game and be there for long run, because investors bet on the long-term view. So that is one important thing that has to be taken into consideration. But despite the risk, the potential for return and positive social impact makes sustainable startups a very strong investment option. And specifically to us at BlueHelion, we focus on supporting startups that have strong value proposition and a clear path to scalability, and helping them navigate the challenges of the market as they build a sustainable enterprise, or as they curate offering on a ESG and sustainability agenda. We take early bets on them in terms of being the advisor, in terms of helping them define their GTM, their offering strategy, their fine-tuning their investor propositions, and then we run the entire length with them in terms of ensuring that they're fundable, they get market traction, they are able to get interest basis their investor value propositions, and culminate into a successful fundraise. So that's where our focus is.
That's really wonderful. In fact, they are quite promising when we talk of sustainable investments. Now, my next question to you is, what is BlueHelion's advice to small and medium enterprises? How can they leverage sustainability and ESG principles for growth and competitiveness?
So again, our advice to SMEs and SMBs is to view sustainability and ESG principle not as a compliance requirement, but as an opportunity for innovation, differentiation, opportunity for building competitiveness, and opportunity for becoming a growth enterprise. So by adopting sustainable practices, SMBs and SMEs and MSMEs can reduce cost, improve efficiency, improve scalability, improve competitiveness, improve the global attractiveness of their products and services, overall enhance their brand reputation in the market. So, for instance, energy efficiency measures can lower operational costs. It's known. Ethical supply chain practice can build customer trust and loyalty. So, SMEs should start by assessing their current impact in achieving the sustainability goal. Very important that promoters of these companies, the management team of company, keep this agenda front and center of the business plan, of the annual operating plans, of the strategy, build this into a culture and ethos of the company, orient the company and the workforce and its offering for the market and its value proposition on this agenda. So at BlueHelion, we work with the SMBs and MSMEs to develop customized ESG strategies that align with their business objective. and help them ultimately attract investment or become fundable. And in some cases we help them get potential exit and unlocking value to that. So by integrating sustainability into core business strategies, SMEs can enhance their competitiveness and resilience in the marketplace, and in the way increase enterprise value and the stakeholder value.
That's really wonderful. In fact, it's an opportunity for these enterprises. Very well said, sir. So now, my last question to you is: how is BlueHelion bridging the investor agenda and interest with the need of the startups and early stage growth companies?
So at BlueHelion, we are the market makers. We act as a bridge between the investors and the startups by aligning this interest and expectation. We are extremely well connected with the investor network across the world. ESG being our sweet spot, investors which have a ESG thesis or a sustainability thesis uh, do interact with us and take our views, and they do understand uh, the availability of or the rather the supply of potentially funding ready startups and companies that can benefit from investor access, investor funding. So we do provide them the insights from time to time. So we understand that investors are looking for strong returns while startups seek capital and strategic support to grow. And we are the market makers. So we work closely with both parties to ensure that investments are structured in a way that meets this need. We also help the startups create a value proposition, become investable, have a sharper business plan, have a value proposition which an investor sees a merit in investing. We also help the investor understand the promoter philosophy, the entire the offering proposition, the GTM, the path to sustainability, the path to growth, how they're going to make it a mainstream activity. So there's a lot of work that goes in bringing both the parties to one table, helping each other understand the expectations and vision of the other party, making the things work because that's our job. So this will include, multiple rounds of actually evangelizing, helping bridge the information gap, trying to help align the strategy and direction at both ways. And for us, this also includes providing startup with resource and guidance they need to implement ESG initiatives, or making their core sustainability focused product agenda or their entire value proposition much more startup, building their sustainable business models. So we also help investors in the process identify high potential startup that align with the investment criteria, particularly in areas like sustainability and impact investment. So by fostering an open communication goals, we create a win-win situation for both investors and startup. It's an exciting time for us as bankers. A lot of activities are happening. A lot of entrepreneurs are coming with
Yes.
ESG ideas and sustainability ideas. Investors are showing a lot of interest. They are willing to bet on the India story. They are willing to bet on the products and offering coming out of the India market. So great time for us, and I think being we are at the right place at the right time, and it allows us to an opportunity to build this bridge and a very very effective and strong relationship at both ends. So that's how I think we are able to manage the agenda.
Very rightly said, sir. It's a great opportunity right now with for the startups also, Blue Helion is doing a great job. We really thank you for the valuable inputs that you have given, and I'm sure the audience will gain out of it. It was a pleasure to have you on our platform, and we are really honored by your presence, and the knowledge that you shared is, I'm sure, which every viewer would benefit from. We really thank you, sir. We thank you for being at Ecotech Talk.
Thank you, and I appreciate you giving me an opportunity, and I hope that together we can also take this agenda forward in any other way, and look forward to interacting with you and your team in the future.